Okay, I'm here with Andrew Breitbart today for People's Press Collective, and we're just going to talk to him a little bit about citizen journalism. And well, I guess the first question that I have is, I want to hear about how you got your start going kind of from being in Hollywood into this kind of activist role in exposing the left, talking about the issues that they have both in Hollywood, in the media, and in the big government sphere.
Well, the interesting thing about being called an activist is I guess that's what the left is trying to call me right now, because the stories that I'm breaking, tend to ruffle the feathers of people who are on the left. But I'm doing nothing different to the left than what the left does to corporate America when it goes in and it does an expose on a corporation that may not be doing something that's ethical or to their liking. And those people reward themselves with great gifts and awards, for that effort, and it's considered journalism. But the type of investigative journalism that I do, the type of stuff that I expose, happens to be about the business of culture and the business of journalism. And so when I recognize that there's a problem in Hollywood, when you recognize that during the period of the Iraq War for 8 years, for example, this is not indicative of the whole, I'm just using the Iraq War as an example, there were about 15 movies that were made that were against the military, that took a very strong stance against the war. And the left said, I guess nobody wants to see a war movie. But there was never a movie that represented that which we're fighting against is worth fighting for, that the enemies that we're fighting are worthy opponents, that their value system is something that's worth fighting. And so you only got one side of the story, and that's what you get in the mainstream media as well. How did that happen, and how do you change that? For the last 20 years, new media in the form of AM talk radio and the internet has exposed people, and to a great extent cable news has opened it up so that more ideas can get out there. And once people are exposed to other ideas, people start realizing, wait a second, I don't agree with the prevailing media orthodoxy. And so what I'm trying to do is trying to level the playing field to an extent, to make it so that people that are right of center, whether it be academically in educational institutions, whether it be in newsrooms, or whether it be in the Hollywood studio system, that people who are right of center, people who are libertarian, people that are freedom loving, cannot just exist openly, but can begin to start expressing themselves freely and to express their ideas freely. So I consider myself a journalist, I consider myself a publisher, but it is an activist role in that the publisher who published an expose into meat packing factories, that person's an activist too, and there's a long tradition of activist journalism, and I'm not shying away from it.
So, kind of looking at these things which you look at critically, culture and whatnot, where do you think we're headed in terms of the culture? From the right's perspective, do you think the right will have more influence in the culture and in the media as it develops? Do you think it'll develop in its own form? Will it grow up from within?
Yeah, it's going to be organic, and part of the problem with the right, even though it is the majority in this country, this is a center-right country, the majority on the right get into other fields. They're not drawn to getting tenure in academia. They're not drawn to coming out to Hollywood, and if they do, they learn to shut up really soon for fear of reprisal. And so those that are involved in the activist right tend to be involved in politics, and those that are involved in politics think in terms of the election year. And so they think in 2-year, 4-year, and 6-year cycles. That's deeply problematic because you're not going to change the culture in 2 years, 4 years, and 6 years. I believe that it's going to take a generational commitment for right-of-center people to get involved in the arts, for them to get involved in the media like they haven't in the past, and to just boldly try and transform something that I believe is manifestly corrupt, and that the American people no longer want to buy that product, and that from a capitalistic standpoint, there are immense opportunities out there. It's just going to have to take a long time and a lot of commitment, and for those people who are young and committed to the cause to say, is it in the movement's best interest that you put all of your resources in the election year and into politics? I think that it's better that people get involved in investing in film studios. If a conservative bought one of the alien studios in Hollywood, if they hooked up with a conservative in Hollywood, and there are many of them, to say, how can we create product that the American people want and don't reject? And I think that the Pixar movies are a perfect example of movies that aren't necessarily activist, but they reflect a basic sense of right and wrong and human decency, and are entertaining and uplifting. That's what the American people want. That's what people with children want. And I'm optimistic about it, but it's going to take a long time to convince people that culture is upstream from politics.
Sure. Now, an internet site just launched called Right Networks, which I've heard a little bit of talk about. Do you think that something along those lines, internet way, I guess the kind of question is the infrastructure being developed or in place for this sort of movement to happen?
Well, they're going out there and they're testing the waters to see what's viable. And I'm a supporter of Right Network, and I wish them well. If I were in charge of a network, I would do what the left does. I would just make movies. I would just make television. And I would not put a big thing on the forehead and say, what you're getting is this. So I kind of believe that the culture should be stealthy. The left understands that. Don't hit people over the head with stuff. Just entertain them, and eventually, perhaps you'll get them into your camp.
Okay. Do you have a couple of examples in mind of where they've done that very successfully?
I think 300 is an incredibly successful movie. The Incredibles is a successful movie. You don't leave The Incredibles or 300 thinking, I just saw a conservative movie. But if you go back and you analyze it and you look at its DNA, it's clear that these people are fighting for the ideals that the people that you witness today are fighting for. So those, it's expensive. I imagine The Incredibles cost upwards of $100 million, and same with 300. So what I have found in Los Angeles is the greatest capitalists in the world are the leftists in Hollywood. They take immense risks with capital and reap the benefits, and I think that their guilt for their success when it happens causes them to be a reactionary leftist in their political worldview and create an inherent conflict.
Okay. One other question for you. It's a Colorado issue that we're dealing with. We just recently put on the ballot Amendment 63, which deals with healthcare choice. And what Colorado's looking to do is turn into a sanctuary state for people who want freedom and choice in their healthcare. Is Amendment 63 something that you could get behind?
Are you kidding me? I almost feel sorry for you. How many people are going to be coming into Colorado? It's going to be the most populous state in the nation.
Okay. Cool. Good deal.
But I'm certainly supportive of it. There's nothing in the Constitution that mandates that we purchase anything. And the idea that I now am obligated by my country to buy health care has opened up the door to any number of activists telling me what I need to buy, and what I need to not do, and what, that's not America.
Okay. One last question. When are you going to leave Hollywood and come out here to Colorado?
Gosh, are there any mountains here that have no snowboarding?
Oh, you're talking to the right guy. Winter Park?
Winter Park?
Tons of great backcountry right around there. If you're into Park, then it's up in Keystone and Breckenridge. Well, if you want to be a bra, Breckenridge is where it's at.
Okay, good. Then I'm a ski Luddite.
Okay.
That drove me crazy. That drove me crazy when I would come home from school and all my friends became snowboard converts.
Yeah.
I said, skiing's the greatest, purest sport of all time.
Yeah.
Why would you want to surf on the snow?
Because surfing's great, right?
Yeah, surfing's for the ocean.
Keep it on the ocean,
skiing.
ski, two
That's
sticks, right? I see
Yeah.
how it is. 2 sticks better than one. You can stay in Vail and Beaver Creek then.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
thank you.
I appreciate it.